we came across this massive, massive avalanche fallout. And it was almost like a super pipe. I don't know if you've ever seen the Olympics with those super pipes where the snowboarders and the skiers go through. This avalanche had carved this massive super pipe right down the mountain to the river, and it took it all the way down to the rocks. It was crazy how deep this was. And we got up to it and we're like, whoa, this is big. We had to take off our skis, crawl down or like kind of climb down to the bottom of it,
What?
hike across, and then hike back up to the top. And it took quite a while. We're like, man, I hope we don't see any more of these. But as we're all kind of doing it, you could tell we're all like,
Yeah, you're like, we just crawled through an avalanche area.
yeah,
Maybe there might be something
maybe.
going on here.
So we started looking up. It's not all released. There's still a lot of snow up at the top.
There's a moment in every hard thing, a race, a climb, a training block, a season of life, where you hit the edge of what you thought you could do. Most people stop there, but some don't.
And this show is all about the ones who didn't. What they found on the other side, what they learned about themselves, and how those lessons followed them into every hard thing they came after.
I'm Nathan Baumeister.
And I'm Matt Carlson.
This is What Remains, an Okape podcast. Aaron, when we started this podcast of What Remains, and I thought of the perfect guest of who I want on, you are the one that came up. And so thank you so much for joining it and for being willing to share your story with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm honored that you thought of me, and I'm honored to be here.
You and I, we've had the chance to work together very closely for a long time across multiple companies. And, I count you as one of my best friends. But Matt and the rest of our audience don't know you. So would you mind just kind of giving high-level introduction, focusing mostly on like what types of physical pursuits kind of have you been into throughout your life?
Yeah. So I'm now 51. It's kind of weird to say that, but I've been pursuing, I guess, outdoor adventures and pursuits most of my life. I was fortunate enough to grow up in Idaho, which is in an outdoorsman's paradise, if
Beautiful,
you will.
beautiful area.
Uh,
Everywhere you go.
yeah, there's so many options, so much water, so many mountains, deserts, trails everywhere. It's such a cool place to live, and especially growing up here, it was even less populated, certainly than it is now. So it really had this amazing playground. But uh, I really like to do all things outdoors. I grew up playing sports, probably like many of the listeners have, like whether it's baseball or football. I was a rugby player in college, and then as I got out of college and into the real world, I just really put my heart and soul into outdoor pursuits and things like hiking and climbing, not rock climbing, but kind of more big mountain ascents type thing. Love to hunt, love to fly fish. So I kind of get that aspect of my outdoors from my grandfather, who was very much into that with me. And then I just like all the recreational sports as well. I love to ski. It's my huge passion in the winter. Used to telemark, kind of giving that up now. So I just mostly just alpine, and spend a lot of time on the bike, spend some time on the golf course, spend some time behind the boat. So anything pretty much outside, during the summer or winter, I'm trying to do it.
I love it. And I have to say, most of my favorite outdoor adventures have been with you, doing many of those things together.
We have.
Yeah, but most of your big adventures, I haven't been on your big adventures, but I've loved hearing those stories and can't wait to share them with everyone. But when you get right down to it, I think a couple things that you touched on is you started a lot with organized sports as a youth. And I also know that you continued on that passion as a coach for a lot of your adult life as well. So could you just share a little bit, and we could focus mainly on kind of the growing up side, but what did organized sports do for you to kind of set a baseline for your life of adventure?
I think for me, I loved being part of a team. I loved being able to contribute. It felt like I was able to elevate myself in my physical abilities, my skill set, what I could contribute if I was a part of a team. That gave me a lot of confidence as an individual. Starting as just even as a young kid, um, I'm not a great athlete. I'm a decent athlete, and I was able to elevate my game when I was around other people. So that just, like I said, that gave me a ton of confidence right there. Um, I think also I enjoyed being around people. I think that was a big piece of it. So for me, a lot of the outdoor pursuit is being social with people. And that started as a young age. I enjoyed the camaraderie with teammates. I enjoyed sweating together, especially as I think back in the high school when sports really kind of got more intense. And in football, you go through those 2-a-days, sometimes 3-a-days, back in the 90s when it was still acceptable. Going through those hot, sweltering, August afternoons and just laying it on the line with your buddies, that was impactful to me. And it also proved that I could do more than I thought I could do. And that was a big piece of it for me. Into college playing rugby, I think again, you're on the field, you're working so hard in some of those hot matches where you're playing 90 minutes. And, there's really not a lot of timeouts, not a lot of stoppage, and it just pulls the best out of you. At least it did for me, and that really did carry on into other pursuits. And I think as my kids grew up and I was able to be involved in coaching them, I really tried to embody those things that were important to me into the teams that I coached. I tried to develop not just skill sets and not just work ethic, but let's build in time for teamwork. Let's build in time for camaraderie. When you got into those tough situations and tough, difficult games or tough moments, you're able to draw on those deeper relationships and pull the best out of each of us. And I love that. I miss that. I don't get to coach quite as much as I used to.
Love the very first thing you said. You're like, I'm a good athlete. I'm not a great athlete, yet you're a collegiate athlete playing rugby, which is like one of the most hardest sports out there to play. But hearing you talk about just what you got from youth sports and how it's kind of you put it to your life as well as the lives of those you coach. Why? Like, what about it made you want to like take the next step and to start like pursuing these like more difficult challenges? And I know we're gonna hear about some of these big adventures coming up, but just was like, what about it? Caused you to want to take that next step?
Yeah, I think I was encouraged by some friends. I've been fortunate to surround myself with really strong personalities and people who want to. I'm drawn to people who want to live a big life, and I don't know why. I'm not sure, Matt. I can answer exactly why that is, but it's something deep down inside me. I want to be with people who want to push the boundaries and go do exciting things. And I'm flattered that they'd even think of me to bring along with. So, to me, I think that's a big piece of it. And after I did it a couple times, it was like, oh, there's something here. This makes me feel alive. This is something I can really work towards and push myself towards. And upon accomplishing some of those big things we've done, you come out the other side feeling, I don't want to say invincible, but incredibly confident that the next challenge that comes across me, I got it. I'm going to figure this out because I've challenged myself. I've been through this fire.
Yeah, if I can do that, I can do this for sure.
Absolutely.
Right? Like that. I love what you're talking about in regards to that confidence. Another thing that I love that you shared was you you sucked the marrow out of life in learning about when you were doing those team sports, how much it helped you as a person, as an individual. And instead of just holding that to you closely, you're like, now I can help kids have that same experience and push it. That generosity of sharing is just absolutely beautiful and something that I've seen from you for the entire time that we've been friends.
Thank you.
But I just think it's great.
So I'm gonna pivot. You keep talking about these adventures. Like I want to hear this. Like I want to get like into the meat and bone or like with the meat potatoes. I think of it.
Yeah, we usually eat meat and potatoes. I haven't eaten meat and bones recently, but maybe you have, Matt.
Well, you said suck the marrow out of the bone.
Well, I had hot wings the other night, Nathan. That was pretty much meat and bones. So
Yeah, that is. I
There you
guess
go.
that's
Yeah.
true. Yeah. Instead of calling them wings, we're gonna say we're gonna go get some meat and bones.
Meat and bones. Watch, it's gonna catch on now.
Well, yeah. I mean, so Aaron, let's dive into it a little bit. You shared you shared kind of that upbringing in sports and going over to rugby, which there's not a lot of people in the U.S. that play rugby, but pretty much all the ones that I have met that do it are a little bit crazy,
Yeah.
which I think is also kind of important when you go after big adventures. So, what was like the first real big physical pursuit in the outdoor adventure arena that you tackled?
The first
Like the one that
real
scared you?
yeah, the one that, and it's funny because I didn't realize what I was getting myself into until I got on the mountain, and it was climbing Mount Rainier. A friend of mine was he was an Eagle Scout, loved climbing mountains, and he had climbed Rainier 2 years prior, and he kind of tapped me on the shoulder in college and said, "Hey," he was graduating a year ahead of me, and he said, "Hey, from after I graduate, I'm going to go over and climb Mount Rainier, and I want to do it as fast as possible. I want to do it in 24 hours." He goes, "And you're the guy who's going to come with me." I was like, "Sweet, let's do it."
Yes.
And this is kind of pre-internet, so there wasn't
always
like a lot of
start with
images.
yes and then ask
Yeah,
questions later, right?
yeah. And so all right, his name was Trig. He's like, "All right, I believe in you. If he believes in me, I think let's give it a shot." We drive over we were in northern Idaho at the time. We drove over to Seattle, and we come around the corner for the first time, and I see Mount Rainier, and it was the first time I'd ever seen it. And I said, "Wait, what? That we're climbing that?" And he said, "What'd you think we were climbing?" I go, "I don't know. I didn't know it was that."
Wait,
Give people some context here.
so you had
So
no details. Yeah, what is Mount Rainier? Like, for those that don't know, I have no idea what it is, like how high it is or anything, or it's even
yeah, so
located.
Mount Rainier is a dormant volcano, somewhat dormant. There's still
Somewhat
lava.
dormant?
Yeah, somewhat dormant. It's the highest peak in Washington State. It's 14,415 feet or something like that, 414 feet. So it's a very large mountain. I think it's the
Close to
second
sea
largest.
level.
What's that?
Like close to sea level, right? It's not too far from the coast.
Yeah, it's right on the coast, so it really sticks out. Like it's massive. The mountains around it are peak out at about 5,000 feet, and then there's this just massive volcano. If you were to do a circumference around the entire mountain, I think it's 76 miles. There's a trail that goes around the whole thing that's 76 miles long, and it's covered in snow for the majority of the year, at least the upper half of the mountain. And so when you summit the mountain, you are in snow and ice. Now I had been prepared. We had been talking about the equipment we need, crampons, ice axe, rope, all these things. So I had a sense of what I was getting myself into, and we practiced some things, out on the lawn doing self-arrests. And I was like, yeah, whatever, I probably won't use this, until, like I said, we came around the corner. I'm looking at this massive, giant pile of ice. And so we got into the parking lot about probably 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and we had a goal to get to Camp Muir, which is 10,000 feet, and that's kind of the first base camp for people who climb Mount
Now,
Rainier.
are you starting at like zero? Because it means sea level, you mentioned. So are you starting
So
like.
we started the morning at sea level in Seattle, the parking lot, and we started off at Paradise. Mount Rainier is a national park, and so within the national park, there's the trailhead is called Paradise, and that's at 5,000 feet. So we needed to go from 5,000 feet to 10,000 feet before it got dark, essentially. And so we loaded up our packs, and we got to Camp Muir roughly 4 hours later. We passed a lot of people. We flew up there. We get to Camp Muir. Now, my buddy Trig, he was an Eagle Scout, didn't believe in excess. So he decided we didn't need a tent. So we roll out this blue tarp on this glacier, and all these other tents around us of other people who are attempting to summit, and they're looking at us like we're just crazy. And I'm like, I don't even have like real climbing stuff. I'm wearing like Eddie Bauer long johns and a pair of Danners. It's pretty funny. I just didn't have anything, but this was my friend, and this was partly what I appreciated about him so much is you don't need all the stuff. You just need to go do it. And I've since learned to iterate off that a little
Yeah.
bit.
There's a few things
There's
that
a
might be
few
worth
things.
it.
Yeah.
Man, wow.
And I learned some of that on this trip. So anyway, most people that climb Rainier are with guides. There's many guide services that take people up and down the mountain.
They probably know like where the crevasses are at the moment and like
They
what the best
do, and they
routes
set up
are.
rope
And
lines, and they set up ladders over some of the crevasses. Well, my friend Trig said, "Well, we're not doing what they're doing. We're doing it our own way, and I've got my own route." Okay. So the way Rainier works is you start climbing in the middle of summer. You start climbing at midnight. So you come out of your sleeping bag. Most people come out of their tents. We
but
did
not
do
you.
that. Not us. We saved a step. You get all geared up, you rope up, and then you start leaving, anywhere between 12:30 and 1 a.m. in the morning with the attempt of summiting just after sunrise.
Yeah, and just real quick for context, you say you're roped up because you're literally tied to the other person you're climbing with, right?
Yes, you're tied up. You've got a harness on. You're tied up with a rope, and the reason why is if you fall on one of these crevasses or one of the glaciers, there's no stopping. Like you're going to go for a long ways, and you've got your ice axe and all that stuff. But it's very dangerous. It's not just something you just run up and go do. There's a lot of planning that needs to take place.
So you're not summiting like on switchbacks. You're summiting literally the side of the volcano.
Yes.
You're just
and
climbing up with ice
routes.
picks.
There's some routes that have been established that kind of zigzag the way up the mountain that the guide groups do. But then there's lots of planned routes that people have done over the years that are documented and mapped. We were doing one of the other routes that wasn't part of the guide service.
What do you think at this point right now? You did have a tent. You're sleeping, and then what's going through your mind right now? And he's like, "Hey, I got a plan. Don't worry about it." You're like,
actually, I kind of felt like I was a badass, to be honest with you. I was standing there at midnight on the side of a mountain, all these people with little headlamps and helmets on, and I'm looking around like, "Yeah, I'm part of this. Let's go. This is awesome."
It's incredible. It's incredible.
And so we started hiking, and I think when we got on the trail that day, we were probably like 11 or 12 on the trail because everybody starts off at the same spot. You got to go around this big rock formation, and we're like number 12 on the trail. And we're hiking, and about an hour into it, you realize, okay, this is going to be a slog. This is hard. And it started, the altitude starts to impact you like 11,000 feet, 12,000 feet. It starts to hit you pretty hard because less than 24 hours before we were at sea level. And so that altitude starts to hit you pretty hard. Where it really hit me was hydration. I did not properly hydrate myself, nor did I have enough water in my backpack. And I started getting thirsty, and I killed whatever water I had early. And my buddy was very disappointed in me, and he told me that. He said, "Well, you should have brought more water." I was like, "You should have told me this."
Like, the time to tell me this is not when we're up stuck on a ice.
Chalk that up to a lesson learned by a 20-year-old right there. That I've never forgotten that. And I'm glad I went through it because now water is of utmost importance to me. And so as we climbed through the night, we got to the summit as number 3. Not that I was keeping track. I'm a little bit
not that there was a ranking or anything like that.
We were the third group to hit the summit. It was about 7 a.m. The sunrise on the side of a mountain like that, when you see the sun before anybody else does, it's absolutely stunning. Some of the best vivid memories I have of any sunrise of my life was that day. And we stood on the summit, took a few pictures. I begged a few other people for water as we were coming down. Literally begged them.
"Please, sir, can I have some water?"
Man, I go, "I am so, please help me."
So, midnight, you leave your blue tarp. Not tent. You're not tent. You left your not tent. And it's trudging, right? Like one step after the other. Heart rate's going up. Every foot you rise, there's less oxygen. Like, you want to talk about coal shoveling. You want to talk about monotony. Like, one small step to the next, one small step to the next. But you get to the top and it was worth it. I know that it's indescribable and it's hard to put in words, but I'm going to ask you to put in words. Why does it make it worth it to go through the pain, the suffering, the monotony, the difficulty? But man, when you get on top of that mountain, dehydration, exactly. But you're on top of this mountain. Like, why is it worth it? Because I know this isn't the last mountain that you summited. This wasn't your last big mountain that you summited.
For me, it was just such an accomplishment, Nathan. Just to stand on top and know, wow, I just did this. This is something that really none of my friends had done up to that point, except the guy I was standing next to. Uh, I felt I guess I felt so accomplished. Um, I will say though, because it was so difficult when we stood on top, it was a bit anticlimactic because we knew we had to go back down.
Well, that's always the
Back
problem,
down,
right?
going back down on that mountain's the most dangerous part because you're going down in the daylight. The snow starts to loosen up, and I knew that he'd prepped me for that. So it was a bit anticlimactic. It was really exciting, and then it was like, oh man,
Now we got to turn
I'm
around.
only halfway done. I still got to go down this beast.
What's it like at the summit though? Is it like pretty big broad area, or are you sitting at like a
It
point?
was. So
Like,
at the top of Rainier, it's actually a lake and it's frozen over. There's heat vents
From
around the
the
side, and that's
caldera.
where the volcano vents. So yeah, in the caldera. And that was kind of interesting. We crawled into one of those heat vents. It's like 70 degrees, you know, it's super warm in there and stuff.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And it's if you ever get caught up there in a massive storm, that's what people do is they kind of hide in some of those nooks. Um, so you kind of cross this big lake, and then there's just this little, just kind of knoll that is the true summit, and you go stand on that knoll, and it's fairly flat. But when you look west, you look out to the Pacific Ocean, you look out to the entire Puget Sound, and then when you look east, you could just seemingly see all the way towards Idaho. I mean, you can see forever. It's absolutely incredible. And then if you look to the north and to the south, you get to see all the other the great peaks of the Cascades. You know, when you're looking at Mount Baker and you look at Mount Adams and Mount Hood, and you see the sisters, and it's spectacular. Mount St. Helens is close by there too. It's pretty neat.
wow.
But now you have to go down.
Now we got to go down, and so we're going down. It is easier going down on because you start to the fog kind of lifts a little bit from the
Yeah.
altitude and
The
whatnot.
oxygen increases with every
Yeah.
step.
Yeah, and so we start to see a little better, a little more clearly. And once we hit like kind of that 12,000 foot mark, I felt like, oh, we got this. Like it felt really good. I just felt energized. And you know, when we were at that tent, we never really fell asleep. You just kind of lay there for about 3 or 4 hours getting ready for the big hike. So we hadn't really slept much. Um, and I just remember being so full of energy, like we're gonna make it. We did this. We did this. So we got back to base camp at 10:30 in the morning, and we were number one back down from all the groups that had left. But my buddy, he's like, I wanted to do this as fast as possible. So pack up, let's go. And so we get back to the blue tarp. We're rolling everything up. We get everything put back in our bags, and then we hustle down the mountain as fast as we can. And I think we got back down to the truck at Paradise around 2 p.m. It was close to 24 hours, 24, 25 hours that we did it. And it's a big accomplishment. I've really never talked to anybody who's done it like that before. I'm sure people have, but I haven't met any that have climbed Mount
but
Rainier.
it
Tell them
is
we did
uncommon.
24 hours. They're like, you did what?
You did what and why?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, just want to see how fast we could do it.
Yeah, but it was cool. Going back to the start of the story, my friend, he really did say, "Hey, man, you don't need everything. Let's just go. We're just gonna do this. Okay? We're gonna get each other up there." And that was an awesome lesson. And I've tried to use that with my own kids and stuff. And hey, you don't need this or that. You just need to do it. Let's go.
Oh, it's a great lesson, not just for, outdoor pursuits, but, I've had the opportunity to start a few companies. And I have two people that I've started a few companies with on this episode right now. And so both that like one of the biggest things that make a startup fail is waiting to launch your product or waiting to try and get revenue or waiting even for the right time to start the company. And the truth of the matter is most people never start their company, or they fail after they start their company because they get stuck waiting for the right gear, the right knowledge, the right team, the right conditions, the right whatever. But at some point you just got to go.
Yeah.
And bring water with you. So I'm still kind of having a hard time understanding, like, you're hiking in darkness up the side of a mountain. That has to be terrifying.
Yeah, it's pretty methodical. You have to be I think that's what makes it so difficult and so challenging is you have to be so precise with your footwork. You've got to make sure each step is planted, planted, planted. And you find that rhythm with the ice axe in your feet. And we worked on locking the knees out after every step just to save just that little microsecond of energy.
It's the piece that is so interesting to me about these big adventures is in the end, any big adventure is just based off of very small steps and very
Mhm.
small little details.
Yeah,
But it is that
that's right.
repetition of all those small little details and those small little steps that it's like, oh, holy smokes, I just climbed a freaking mountain. Or I just ran an Ironman. Or for some people, it might be they just ran their first mile, right? Like it doesn't really matter the size of the pursuit. It matters, are you pushing past what those limits were that you previously had accepted?
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
So Mount Rainier, first real big adventure that really pushed you out your comfort zone. I actually love also that you were like, I didn't actually know what I was getting myself into. I I think that a common refrain again, just for like from a business perspective, just where these lessons apply elsewhere, is most of the time when you talk to entrepreneurs after they've been successful and you ask them, knowing what you know now about the industry that you were in and about what it would take to actually start this company successfully, would you do it again? Most of them would say no. But that little bit of ignorance is really a kindle of hope, or it allows people to kind of take that step into the void.
I think also, like, just the belief, right? I mean, you your friend asks you out of nowhere, you're like, "Yeah, let's go." Yes, first, ask questions later, and then you get there, you're like, "Whoa, we're doing that." Like, that's pretty that's awesome. I think at that point, I'd be like, "Please get a flat tire, please get a flat tire." So
So that was like your first big one. Um, would you be willing to share one of the stories, like a big one that you went after but didn't go the way that you were hoping it would go?
Yeah, so this one was up in Alaska. Early in my career, I was able to go up to Alaska quite a bit as part of my territory. And in that process, I got to meet a number of outdoor adventure people as well, both in the industry and people I went to college with that moved up to Anchorage. And so I got really connected into this backcountry ski group up there, which was really fun. And so we started doing some outdoor, some backcountry ski adventures. And this one particular spring, we had a big trip planned. We're going to what's called the Snowbird Glacier out of the Palmer Wasilla Valley, and we'd been planning it for about a month. And I mean, we got the topo maps out, and we did all this awesome planning. And was going with a pretty good group of guys. I knew about half of them. I met the other half. I think there were 6 of us total, and I met the other half on the day that we were going to go on the ski route. And our goal was to get to the top of the Snowbird Glacier or thereabouts, and just have this amazing backcountry ski run. It was a big challenge. It was an all-day type thing.
Was this one of the ones that like you would be hiking up to the top? Like,
Yes. So
yeah.
yeah, we were starting at basically the base of a river valley, and we were going to have to hike and then put skins on our skis. We were all telemarking at the time, and we had a route planned, which was going to take us most of the day up to the top of where we wanted to ski, and then we were going to ski out. And so, mostly a hike, less about the skiing. It was really exciting. I'm going to go do this amazing named glacier in Alaska with these total stud athletes. Again, honored to be a part of it. I was so excited. And luckily, we were all versed in avalanche warnings, and we'd taken avalanche classes, and so we all knew what we were doing. We had our beacons on, we had our backpacks with our shovels and our probes, and we did all the safety checks before we left. I'm like, all right, good to go.
You brought
And
enough water.
it had plenty of water, yes. So as
just
we're
need the snow.
as
So
we start into our journey, about a mile into it, it was a really nice day. It's probably too nice.
Mm.
Um, and we came across this massive, massive avalanche fallout, and it was almost like a super pipe. I don't know if you've ever seen the Olympics with those super pipes where the snowboarders and the skiers go through. This avalanche had carved this massive super pipe right down the mountain to the river, and it was, I mean, it took it all the way down to the rocks. It was crazy how deep this was. And we got up to it and we're like, whoa, this is big. We had to take off our skis, crawl down or like kind of climb down to the bottom of it,
What?
hike across, and then hike back up to the top. And it took quite a while. We're like, man, I hope we don't see any more of these. But as we're all kind of doing it, you could tell we're all like,
Yeah, you're like, we just crawled through an avalanche area.
yeah,
Maybe there might be something
maybe.
going on here.
So we start looking up. It's not all released. There's still a lot of snow up at the top. And it's warm, like I said, it's a nice warm day. It's starting to heat up. We're on the south facing slope. And we're like, okay. But here's an important caveat. We're all in our 20s. We're all type A, goal driven dudes. Like, you're not going to tell me I can't do something because I can. We're all, I mean, most of these guys were engineers. They're hardcore outdoorsmen. They live in Alaska for a reason. When they set a goal, they're going to go do it. I'm kind of that way, unfortunately, as well. So we start hiking again. We come to the next one, and it's even bigger. And so the big debate ensues. And we got into I wouldn't say an argument, but a heated debate on what we should do. And I remember two guys in particular said, no, we set a goal. We're going to get there. The likelihood of an avalanche is very small. And four of us, I was on that side, said, no, I would say the likelihood of an avalanche is still pretty high. It's getting hot. Snow's still way loaded up there. We can all see it. I think we're going to keep running into these things. I don't want to be caught on the wrong side of it. So we got in this big debate. We ultimately decided, okay, let's not keep going up here. Goal's over. Let's have a good day on the other side of the mountain. So what we did was we came to an agreement. We went down to the river, crossed the river in our ski boots, which was interesting, and then got to the other side of the river and then hiked up the north-facing side, which was completely stable. It was less of a pitch. The skiing was not going to be quite as good, but it was considerably safer given the conditions that we faced. So we had hiked. We got to the top of where we wanted to get to, and by about that time, it was around 1 p.m. And we kind of took off our skins, took our backpacks off, got some lunch out. I think I was eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, Nathan, which I know is one of your favorites in the mountains.
Sometimes just a peanut butter by itself. It doesn't always have to be in a sandwich. Just get a big spoonful of peanut butter.
So we're sitting there, and we're all kind of sitting in a row, just looking at the mountain where we were going to go. And then when we got up there, we could see there were probably 5 more of those avalanche gullies that we would have had to have crossed to get to the goal that we wanted to get to. And as we were eating lunch, this is no joke, we heard the first explosion. Boom! This massive rumble just coming down the mountain, and we could see it right where we would have been in one of those slots. And it came down and shook the valley. It was so loud, trees were snapping, and we were just like, oh man. None of us said a word. It happened 3 more times.
Just while you were up there for lunch?
Just while we were, 2 more while we were eating lunch, and then 1 more while we were skiing down. And I'm telling you, when an avalanche goes, it's like, if you've heard in movies and stuff, they kind of add the sound effects and whatever. Mm-hmm. It's real. Like, it sounds like an explosion goes off, and then the rumbles like an earthquake, and it's terrifying. You realize how powerless you are compared to nature. And so we just looked at each other after that first big one, and we said, we made the right decision, guys. We totally made the right decision. And the big lesson I took out of that, and I still do to this day, is you've got to set goals, you've got to plan, but you've got to be willing to pivot when the circumstances dictate so. And it saved our life that day. And I'm glad I learned that lesson early on, but I've been able to apply that in so many different aspects of my life. I always think about that story. Sometimes, regardless of how bad you want to get someplace, no matter how persistent you are in achieving your goal, you got to change directions. And sometimes it sucks, but you know what? In that particular instance, it saved my life.
Now, I'm assuming it wasn't just as like how you described it, 2 guys this way, 4 guys this way. I mean, it sounded like it was pretty intense though, right? And maybe there's some swaying, go back and forth. What did the 2 guys say after that all happened? Were they just like,
they were very humble about it. No, they were
really okay.
it was Matt, it was impossible not to be.
Well, you just saw one of the biggest natural powers that exist. Like, there's no way to not feel humbled to be that close and to know that you could have been right in the middle of it. That's
Yeah.
just can't even
I mean, it
imagine.
kind of it really turned me off on backcountry skiing from that point forward. I still did it a little bit,
What?
but I just
Weird.
didn't do it a lot after that because I was too nervous. I saw the power firsthand. Very few people get to see it firsthand. I did. And I was like, I'm good on a ski lift.
Yeah, ski lifts ain't bad.
I still did a little backcountry, but not near as much as I had done up to that point.
We talk a lot about this idea of being willing to push past perceived limits and to find out who you are on the other side. But I can't emphasize enough, and it's part of what you're saying, Aaron, as well, that it is important to learn how to push past perceived limits, but it's also important to understand that there are actual real physical limits. Like there are things that you should not push past. Injury is one of them. Dangerous elements, like being able to really analyze and assess the risk that's sitting in front of you and being able to figure out, is it worth it or is it not worth it? You can't take all risk out of life. You just can't. You're going to have to be able to live with some sort of risk, but what is the level of risk that you and the people that depend on you and love you are okay with you taking, and making sure that you're clear-eyed about those things?
Here's what I love as well is like you mentioned that all six of you were so type A and goal oriented type people where you're like, we set a goal, we're going to hit it no matter what. And to be able to pivot and like find wisdom in that moment when you're obviously working your tail off, obviously you have a goal, you see the mountain right there. You're like, we're so close. That's gonna be hard to like make that change right there. I mean, that just must be like soul and gut wrenching a little bit, right? Almost. I mean, did you ever feel like you guys failed when you first?
Abs- Absolutely. Felt like a total loser, Matt. I mean,
Wow.
seriously, walking through a river on rocks trying to not get your feet wet. Like, what are we doing? This is stupid. We should have just kept going. We wouldn't have gotten hurt. We would have been fine. What are we doing? We just totally
Mm,
gave up on our goal. I mean, that was, I know all five other guys that were with me were going through the exact same
mm.
angst. And you could tell because we weren't talking because we were all pissed. And you get up the other side and you start, and then the positive self-talk started coming in. Hey, I think we made the right decision in the long run. I think, hey, this is going to be good. You start justifying why we wussed out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it felt like. It really did. It felt like, oh, the instructors at the Abbey course got in our head. They stopped us from having a good time. But man, that's not how it turned out. So
I'm wondering, and I'm wondering, like, with the hearing the boom of the first avalanche, right? It's just like how much gratitude you probably felt in that moment, where you're just like, oh, probably that like most humbling feeling. I'm guessing you felt at that
maybe
point in your life. Yeah.
maybe of all time for me. Yeah, maybe of all time.
What did you
I
do
mean,
in that moment? I know you guys all talked about it, like what did you feel?
I well, like what you said, gratitude. I felt like this overwhelming sense of, whoa, you did the right thing. Um, but I also just felt, s- I guess, lucky,
Mm.
so to speak. I mean, gratitude's one way to put it. Lucky's another one. I was just like, whoa, I can't believe this just happened. I can't believe I could have been right there, and I'm not because we made the right decision. It's just overwhelming. Hard to put into words.
I wonder if like if that didn't happen, what how would you have felt afterwards, right? If like everything was fine, there's no avalanche that came down, and you guys went to it, and the whole time you're skiing, you're like, it was fine. We shouldn't have done that. I wonder how like that would have changed your perspective.
Yeah, that's a great question. I probably wouldn't be telling the story today.
Yeah, it's not very often that you get that level of direct feedback in that short period of time that you made the right decision.
Confirmation.
Most
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
time, you never know whether you made the right decision or not. You have to sit in that ambiguity and in that spot of being like, was that the right decision or was it not?
It was also a really important lesson for me in pride, and I think what often goes along with setting goals and big dreams is pride, and that's what was hurting for a lot of us when we crossed that river. Being able to release that pride and being humble in the moment has stayed with me for a long, long time. It really helped me in my coaching, through either whether it was baseball, football, softball. Um, I coach rugby now. Being able to change, I mean, going in with a game plan, going in with this, I got this pitcher on the mound in the first 3 innings. I got this pitcher on the mound in the next 3 innings. I got this guy on the bench to come in and do all these things. Um, I've worked with coaches. I've seen coaches that refuse to pivot off their game plan because they in their mind they've got it worked out perfectly. And being able to, again, go in with a plan, but being able to pivot quickly and not be upset about it. Just take the circumstances as they are. I didn't have anything to do with what XYZ was going to happen. I didn't know the weather was going to be this way. I didn't know this was going to happen. So what am I going to do about it? I can sit here and whine about it and be prideful and stick to my guns, or I can change directions and I can do something different for the benefit of the team. That's happened. I mean, Nathan and I in helping growing a company, we had to do that all the time. And it was hard. It was really hard. But there were certain things out of our control, a pandemic being one of them. So you have to swallow that pride, take the punches that are given to you, and figure out how to keep moving forward.
All right, so we got your first one. We got one of the ones that didn't go as you expected. What's one of your all-time favorite stories when you think of the physical pursuit out in the outdoor adventure medium?
I think it's hard to list just one.
I'm sure it is. Well, this is part one of our conversation with Aaron Coleman. Throughout the years, we are going to have more because there's so many stories that we want to hear from you, Aaron.
One of my favorite things to do is I do a 8-day float in Alaska. I get dropped off by a float plane on a lake. We assemble a raft and we float 120 miles on average out to a specific pickup point near the Kuskokwim River that eventually drains into the Bering Sea. Can
we just stop there for a second? Just how crazy that is. Like, you're dropped off in one spot. And it's like, in 8 days, you better be in this spot because we're going to pick you up. And if you're not there,
Question, why?
So, why is it's a fishing trip. You go after large fish. You're in the middle of remote Alaska, which is completely off the grid. There's no people. There's no cell service. There's nothing. You get dropped off, and we typically don't see another living person for 7 to 8 days. And so the reason it's my favorite thing to do is it's really hard. And that sounds counterintuitive, but it's really hard. There's a lot of planning that goes into it. There's a lot of logistics that go into it. There's a lot of things that have to go well to pull it off right. And then when you're out there, you have to get to certain points. You set up camp every evening. You break down camp every morning. You float all day, and then you do it all again. And then you do it all again, and you do it all again, and you do it all again. So you're setting up and breaking down a total of about 16 times. And it's physically taxing on the body. I spend a lot of time preparing, usually about 2 months in advance, lifting specific weights for this type of trip, whether it's deadlifts or squats, a lot of grip strength type stuff, just getting my body physically prepared for it. When you're out there on the water, being savvy, knowing what time it is at all times, knowing where you're at on your GPS, making sure that you don't float past certain points, always keeping your head on a swivel for wildlife. The two biggest concerns up there are grizzly bear and moose, which we see plenty of. It's an incredibly challenging trip, but man, there's almost nothing that makes me feel as alive as when I'm up there doing that. About halfway into the trip, you feel like a completely new person. It feels like the metropolitan garbage is past you and in the rearview mirror, and you become this wild human in the element you're supposed to be in, living like you're supposed to live, and you just feel vibrant and strong. And I've done it many times, over 20 times. I've done different rivers up there. We're doing it again this year. It's getting harder as I get older. The joints after sleeping on rocks don't feel quite as good when you wake up in the morning. A little bit more stiff, and we roll out with a little bit less pep. But still, it's just one of those things. Um, like the end of the mountain climb. When you come back, when I get back to my home and I'm unpacking my gear, I have just this incredible sense of satisfaction. Like, man, I just did something really hard that not very many people do, and I feel so alive because of it. And I don't care what comes around the next corner. It's not going to be as hard as what I just did, and I can do it.
Uh, we have so many things we're gonna unpack on this adventure here because I mean this just sounds epic and incredible. I
And
mean
crazy.
oh
Epic,
yeah,
incredible, crazy. I mean, it's all the things.
my heart rate, my watch just went off. It's like, are you working out? Because I think I just hit 140. Um, because first and foremost, you are in remote Alaska. You are in total isolation. Like you have no phone service. Like, what if something happens? You know, if you like get injured, like what the crap? So first question, what does it feel like to be in total isolation, right? You give us a little snippet of like what it feels like. You feel alive, and after a few days, you know, you got all that gunk removed for like metropolitan, you know, gunk you mentioned. But what does it feel like to be in total isolation, just you and a few people, you versus the elements, you versus the world? Like, what does that feel like? That just, to me, it terrifies me hearing that.
I love it. Like I said, because we spent the time to plan and prepare, and I have experience. I've come to just crave it. So to me, I really just love that feeling of being completely isolated. Now, full disclosure, we
Mm,
do have a satellite phone if we do find ourselves in danger. If someone were to get drastically hurt, or a raft blows up, you know, whatever, if something happens,
mm.
we do have a satellite phone, so we are able to call out if needed.
But to be
However,
clear, you're going to call someone out and they're going to be like, okay, where are you? I need to
yeah,
get a float plane to you. And then once a float plane comes, maybe it can or can't land where, I mean, let's
it's
be clear. You're
yeah,
still
you're
remote.
still very isolated. That happened
Yeah.
one time. We had a situation where one of our guys got hypothermia, and it was a really scary situation, and we had to solve the problem right there, and it was just us, and we had to go into um, we really had to focus. We couldn't panic. We had to go into solution mode, and we knew it's just us. There is no help. There is no hot bath we can put this person in. There is no hospital we can take to get him revived. We've got to figure it out right now. And we did. Fortunately, I was with some very competent people, and we just rallied together and did everything the way we were supposed to do it. And coming out of that, now we do the trip a little bit differently. We put in place some parameters, some hard and fast rules that will not bend. And we pack certain ways because of that night. If something were to happen again, we can react even faster than we did that night. So we've learned from it. When you find yourself in a situation like that, it required intense focus. And, you know, sometimes adrenaline kicks in with strength and you can do amazing things with your body. Sometimes it also kicks in with your mind. And we were able to solve some real problems real fast.
Yeah, that clarity, that the clarity of what to do in action, being able to not get overwhelmed with the adrenaline, but rather get very clear-minded and sharp.
Yeah, and I was fortunate. I was surrounded by this is a 4-man trip. One of the men went down, so the two other guys I was with were just they're just the kind of guys that you'd want on a trip like that that didn't panic, didn't shut down. They just bam, they were right there, just as focused as I was, and we were all three of us able to perform at a high level.
That is incredible. So,
But I hope to never be in that situation again. Let me be
Yeah,
clear.
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
Be
gosh.
prepared for anything and hope none of the stuff that you prepared for actually happens, right? As
Yeah.
far as the bad stuff goes.
Well, and it sounds like bad things happen all the time. But it's also like you know what I mean. It's like you have it's like okay, we know you're always preparing for something to happen, but you're prepared, so it's like doesn't seem as bad.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's always bad. Like it sounds like no matter what hike you go through, you know, what's Mount Rainier or you're going up skiing in Alaska or basking in Alaska, there's things you're gonna face, and the different levels of like challenges are always present. Some it's gonna be, you know, avalanches, which are life threatening, or hypothermia in this situation. And I'm sure there's tons of stuff that happened you haven't shared with us that just were always just problems you're trying to solve all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's personalities. I've been on
Mm,
trips with difficult personalities, and that's a whole nother challenge. I'd probably rather face the physical one than those emotional ones, honestly,
mm.
because those are more taxing emotionally, and
Yeah.
you don't want to deal with that garbage. Um,
Yeah.
But, Matt, to your point, I've had so many amazing trips, but there's almost always an element of adversity anytime you do
Mm,
something hard. Anytime you
mm-hmm.
put yourself out there and go the extra mile and do something extra difficult, there's a level of adversity that's going to come up. If there wasn't, everybody else would be doing it. And I think it's our ability to approach that adversity head on, expect it, deal with it, move on from it, and still find the best that can be had in that particular circumstance or particular trip.
Mm.
That's the key. That's the key. Because, and I think honestly, that's why a lot of people are afraid to put themselves in difficult situations, because they just don't want to deal with some of the hard stuff.
But the truth of the matter is, just like what you were saying, Matt, any adventure you go on is going to be going to have hard things. You are 100% guaranteed that just living life, you're going to go through hard
Yeah.
things, right? So, do you want to be someone who prepares for that, who's ready for that, who's proven that they can handle those types of situations, so that when the inevitable happens within your own life, you're able to pull from that inner strength and know who you were, who that person is when you uncovered it, when you were doing those hard physical things.
You know what's so interesting about that too is, Aaron, hearing you speak just about these situations, like you don't have a safety net. It's like we solve this problem or we perish. We solve this problem or something bad's going to happen that we can't recover from. So I'm just curious how you've applied some of those principles to things that you could back off. Like, I'm sure like a work issue, you're like, like we have a safety net. Worst case happens, we'll be all right. And it sounds like, you attack life based on your experiences with these physical pursuits to where you're like, hey, we're gonna accomplish it no matter what. Like the safety net in our mind is gone because of these experiences.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I've tried to put that into my business life. Um, I think that's why I've had success in the different roles. I've been a salesperson or a sales leader my entire professional career. Sales is very stressful. Things go well, things go horribly.
And
Uh,
just real quick, I know I'm biased, but I think you're one of the best sales professionals that exist on the face of the earth.
well, thank you. I appreciate that. Doesn't feel like it this quarter, but
That's part of the reason why you're such a great sales leader, though.
but Matt, I think you're right. You you For me, I just keep trying to find a solution. And you can't get bogged down in the failures, and you can't get bogged down in the woe is me and whatnot. You've just got to continue to push forward and find a solution through it. And it requires humility, and it requires letting go of some pride, and it requires asking hard questions, and it requires asking for help, and it requires falling on your sword at times and telling people I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there, but I didn't get it done, but I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to figure this out. Um, that to me that has served me well, and I've learned a lot of my outdoor pursuits have helped me with that mental fortitude to get there. Kind of, like the military model. In the military, they break you down, they beat you up. You go through the incredible tests, especially at the highest levels of the special forces. They put those guys through the most miserable, hard things, so that when they face those miserable, hard things in the real world, they're prepared and they're responsive and they know how to get through it. And I'm not a military person, but I sometimes wish I would have, because I think I would have thrived in that environment for sure. So I'm trying to do my part in my own life in just starting to, or trying to put myself in those hard positions, because it just it's so good for me. I have to keep doing that.
Along with that, I mean, that's so insightful, and there's so much to gather and learn from your experiences that are just so helpful. Do you find yourself like you've done so many hard things that you don't get the same kind of like confidence from doing something that doesn't push you quite as hard as some of these other experiences? Like you have to keep pushing the envelope a bit.
I don't think so. I have not taken that mentality. I've never tried to one up one other experience, at least not intentionally. Not intentionally. I know people that do that. I've never been one of those though. To me, it's I know my limits. I know what I need to do to push myself and to have great experiences. But I've never tried to one up the last one.
One of the things that, like, when you're sharing what you shared, Aaron, is this idea of being able to do hard things and uncovering who you are, it doesn't always have to be like, well, this one felt like 100, so now I need to go to 102 if I want to be able to continue. It's just the experience itself is what creates the stimulus to provide that workout that you need to be able to uncover yourself. And so each of them are different, and they don't have there's no measurement really. It doesn't have to be like tangibly harder than that previous one. It's just a different or I like to think like life is like a river. You stand in the river, and wherever you're standing in that river, every minute it's a different river, right? Because the water is moving, the sand is moving, the rocks are moving. And our life is like that. And so just because you've done this float trip 20 times, and sometimes it's been in the exact same situation with the exact same people, the experience was different.
100%.
It just it couldn't be the same. It wouldn't be the same because you're not the same person. They're not the same person. The landscape isn't the same. But it's the fact that you're just out
and
there.
the weather's not the same.
Yeah.
I think that's really insightful, just what we were both saying, because I think at times we find ourselves, wanting to always take the next step, right? Always, it's like, hey, I accomplished this goal. I need to hit better goal ahead of time, right? Just to keep, using like weights as an example. It's like, hey, I just bench pressed my new PR. Well, I need to get higher. I need to get higher. I need to get higher. If I'm increasing or progressing, you can catch yourself in that loop. But it's a good reminder that, hey, life in itself is just about doing the best you can in that moment. And each experience is going to be different because you're a different person at that time, and you might have not slept as much, right? Or you may have, a new family or a new job, or everything's be different. So that's a really good reminder and good perspective on that.
So Aaron, you shared 3 just awesome stories. You did such a fantastic job of not just sharing the stories, but sharing like what you learned about yourself, about life, and how you've been able to apply those lessons elsewhere. Um, it was just so much fun just talking to you and listening to you. I did want to let everyone know one of the reasons that we wanted Aaron Coleman on early in the season of What Remains is because Aaron is actually joining Matt and me for a physical pursuit to push ourselves outside our
Yeah.
limits. Actually, it's just going to be in about 2 weeks. So depending on when you're listening it, that might be before or after we did it. But on July 10th, 2026, we decided that we were going to walk the entire loop of Yosemite Valley in one sitting, like no stopping. 44 miles-ish, 11,000 feet of elevation gain-ish. We were talking about this before we started recording. I think all of us agreed that we're nervous, but we just thought it would be awesome to be able to get some folks to hear your story and get to know you a little bit before the 3 of us hit the trail.
Thank you. I am excited for this trip. I'm also very nervous about this trip. I mentioned we did Rainier in about 24 hours. I was 20, not that young anymore. So we'll see how the Yosemite goes.
Here's what makes me nervous is now hearing all your amazing adventures and all the stuff you've been through, and to say you're nervous about this trip. I was like, wow.
Life is like a river, Matt. Life is like a river.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, that's only because I've done enough trips with Nathan to know that I'm going to do everything I can to keep up.
True. Oh my goodness, yes.
Oh man. But we have to end the episode in the same way that we end all of our episodes. You knew this question was coming. After everything you've been through, everything you've pushed past, what remains?
And this sounds silly, but everything remains. There is no pinnacle achievement. We're going to keep going as hard as we can until we die. So to me, this next trip is what remains. The trip after that is what remains. And I hope to keep doing amazing things with my friends and with my family and by myself as long as I can, just to keep staying sharp, keep getting better. So to me, man, everything remains. I mean, I'm excited. It's fun right now as I've gotten older. I mean, yeah, the bodies are breaking down and things don't move quite as easily as they used to. but I also have a bigger bank account, so I can go places that I couldn't go to before. And so there's some trade-off there, and they've both been fun. I loved the adventures when I was 20. I'm loving the adventures now that I'm 50, and I don't see us slowing down, honestly. So to me, what remains? There's a lot that remains.
Well, that's Aaron's story. And like every story on this show, the finish line wasn't the point.
If something in this episode stayed with you, write it down, sit with it, and then go do something with it.
If you're not on your path yet, this is your sign to start. It doesn't have to be big, it just has to be real.
New episodes are dropping all the time. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if this show meant something to you, share it with one person who needs to hear it.
I'm Nathan Baumeister.
And I'm Matt Carlson.
This is What Remains, an Okape podcast. We'll see you next time.